Republicans that they would be willing to go along with kind of spending as a gun education?
I think there are many Republicans that would, and ultimately we think if you reached a compromise deal, that Republicans would not be the impediment. This is step by step, and step one is finding common place with Democrats, but we believe, just like Republicans came on board for the prior three deals, that they would too this time around. But again, step first is finding common place with Democrats. Yep. Jeff?
Do you have any sense of the timeline for that now? Obviously, we're just a little less than 2 weeks away from the election.
Yeah, it's getting closer, and unfortunately, as we get closer, Nancy Pelosi sits more entrenchedly and staunchly in her position of depriving the American people of needed relief because she doesn't want President Trump to have an electoral victory. It gets harder as we get closer, but rest assured, Secretary Mnuchin, the Chief of Staff, are trying each and every day, but she's making it harder by not budging even 1 inch from her position that she's had since, I guess, March at this point. Or May, I should say.
Does the president believe he has the time to change the trajectory of the race, setting aside his performance last night? 48.5 million people have already voted.
The president doesn't need to change the trajectory, of the race, because the trajectory of the race is strongly in his favor with a massive tailwind behind him. Look, I think you can see it in early voting. When you look in Michigan, the fact that we're 2 points ahead in requested ballots, 2 percentage points, it's actually NBC's tracker that you can go and look at. Republicans don't routinely match early vote of Democrats, and we're seeing that in states, and we believe that's more indicative of where the country stands than any of the public polling out there that sometimes is designed to shape public opinion rather than gauge it. Anything else? Yep. Ouija?
Thank you. Given how confident the president is of wrongdoing with the Biden family, has he asked Attorney General Barr to open an investigation?
No, he has.
Will he?
No, he has not. The president wants these things to be looked into, and the media is really the avenue that should be doing that at this point. It's up to the Attorney General as to how he pursues this and the FBI, but we just want justice. We want the American people to have a full picture of what's at stake. And thank you, by the way, for asking about this, because not often do we get questions about the Joe Biden, Hunter Biden situation. But at this point, it's really the media that needs to look into this because, we're 12 days out and the American people, 11 days out, the American people deserve answers.
Kayleigh, can I ask about the rallies? He's doing several over the next little while. Number one, what did you think he gets from them? What difference do they make? Number two, have you thought about changing the approach at all, given the cases are rising again? Is it time to pull back on rallies or change them at all, or is the White House not considered that?
So first, let me back up and say we always provide masks. We encourage them to be worn. We have hand sanitizer available. You have a right to go to a political rally in this country, much like there's a women's march last weekend here in D.C. that people attended. We've seen protests. People have attended. We also know, by the way, a lot more about this disease than we did when we had to shut down the country. We know young people are less affected by it. Of course, they can contract COVID, but they tend to endure it much better than the older population does. So we know a lot more about this. Ultimately, it's the choice of the American people whether to come out and engage in political speech as the First Amendment allows them to do.
But why does the president want to still do rallies, given the threat?
Because, look, this is the most important election in American history because what's at stake in this election are jobs, the economy, recovering from COVID. He believes he's the best person to do that. He thinks he has a 4-year proven track record of that. And 11 days out from an election, the American people deserve to hear from their leaders. And it's very interesting that you've had the other candidate been sequestered away for 5 days. President Trump's been out and about. And I think if you're going to not fight for the vote of the American people, I don't think you're going to fight for the American people as president. Thank you guys so much, and I'll encourage